Music is one of the most fast-growing, most diverse, and most accessible forms of entertainment that has come into existence. With access to the internet and a pair of good headphones, you can pretty much stream any music. I mean, there are 41 genres, 337 subgenres, and those are just the ones that we've defined. I mean, you could discover so many new combinations of sound that are created by the growing scene of intersectional identities across the globe. And according to Billboard, since 2017, R&B and hip-hop has been the dominant music genre of the United States, becoming bigger than pop and rock combined. Today, we focus on Rico Nasty, one of the many artists leading Black female sexuality in music. And I'm going to talk about how rap artists express their sexuality in their music and how it connects both to the history of Black women's sexuality as well as Black women's empowerment. The reason I want to talk about this is the prevalence of Black sexual expression in popular Black rap music is deeply connected with the history of Black sexuality and how Black sexual politics have even developed since then. So, what are Black sexual politics, and why are they so important to modern-day Black music? Black sexual politics operate in the context of culture, society, media, literature, religion, our bodies, and ultimately every aspect of our lives, no matter our skin color, and the ways in which we think about race, gender, sexuality, social class, culture, Black personhood. All of these are influenced by aspects of history and social constructions made by those in power. Black sexuality in the United States can be traced back to imagery of the Mammy, the Jezebel, and the Sapphire, three hypersexualized stereotypes about Black women constantly portrayed in media about Black women. The Mammy, historically stereotyped as a Black woman working with a white family to nurse her children, fictionalized as large, dark-skinned with a motherly personality, often described as unattractive, undesirable. A quote from Gone with the Wind. A huge old woman with the small, shrewd eyes of an elephant. She was a shining, pure Black African devoted to her last drop of blood, to the O'Haras. The Jezebel, a stereotype used during slavery as rationalization for sexual relations between white men and Black women, especially depicted as insatiable, never satisfied with Black men, objectified as property and thought not to ever be rapeable, unpure, unfeminine, light-skinned, and thought to control unassuming white men. The Sapphire. The Sapphire was perceived as malicious, stubborn, overbearing, unnecessarily loud, and violent, with African American men as their major targets. They painted enslaved women as impure, strong, masculine, dominant, aggressive women who drove their children and partners away. The strong Black woman, a more recent trope in media specific to this generation. It sees Black women as indestructible, entirely self-sufficient, masculine, independent. And overall, you might think the consequences of this specific trope might not be so bad. I mean, what's wrong with being an independent, self-sufficient black woman? But overall, the consequences of the adultification of young black women are huge. It's been scientifically proven that these stereotypes have a huge impact on the young lives of black women. It can create mental health and coping issues and disparities among the treatment of black women both in schools and in mental health facilities. These stereotypes have also caused black women to have their femininity constantly questioned. Throughout history and even now, many white women have expressed femininity in masculine ways. I mean, a couple examples might be Kristen Stewart and Cara Delevingne. And neither one of them has ever had their femininity questioned in the same way that black women have their femininity questioned every day. The prevalence of these stereotypes in modern media are constant. I mean, black women aren't even allowed to express frustration or passions without being criticized and demonized. Always loud, always vindictive, always in trouble, and always masculine. So, now that we understand a bit of history about the stereotypes surrounding sexual expression and the stereotypes mapped onto black women throughout history and today, I'd briefly like to discuss how black female rappers utilize language in their music. Many black female rappers today cuss in their music. It's a common theme of rap music today. And according to Steven Pinker, there are 5 types of swearing: abusive, emphatic, idiomatic, and cathartic. In a few words for each, abusive swearing is when you use words to hurt, insult, objectify, or humiliate people you don't really care for. For example, calling someone a bitch. Emphatic swearing is when you use words to express that your current emotions are more significant than proper social conduct. For example, oh, now that's f***ed up. Abusive emphatic swearing is when you use words referring to things in the real world as well as how we feel about them. For example, what a piece of shit. Idiomatic swearing is when you use words in a space where social swearing is acceptable and casual. For example, what's up, bitch? Cathartic swearing is when you use words as a sense of relief from pain. Ah, fuck, I stubbed my toe. And it's really interesting when you look at the research about the brain and swearing, because it uses completely different regions than regular speaking, which could explain why people with aphasia and coprolalia experience different issues when it comes to swearing. But beside the science, historically, many of the so-called bad words that we use are because of class differences. Throughout history, we've cycled through a number of different words that are too taboo to be used or are eventually diluted and don't really mean the same thing that they used to mean. And I'd like to read you a quote from Melanie Burns in 2008. Many people disapprove of swearing, seeing it as representing a decline in moral standards or as a sign of limited education. And despite unfavorable perceptions of swearing, it is clearly an important facet of individual group functioning, and it provides an insight into social interaction. I find it really interesting to think about these different categories and how the language of rap artists fit into them. I mean, it heavily connects with the respectability politics that developed as survival mechanisms in Black communities following slavery and segregation. In Black communities following slavery, segregation, and the continued racism that Black communities face, communities adapted to demonstrate that Black people had humanity and intellectual, moral, as well as humanistic dimensions. And they adapted to counter the strong stereotypes mapped onto Black bodies about sexuality. The hypersexualized body turned into a fear of sexuality, and the language of communities conformed to the white masses. The silence about sexuality and language has come about as a survival mechanism, but I would argue that it is utilized and caricaturized by female rap artists to empower Black communities and encourage a sense of community and safety. There's a sense of community in sharing language and sharing the way that we talk about things, the way that we get angry about things. And I find it powerful how female rappers today are using language to talk about their experiences, to let people know that they're angry and that they're tired of being silenced. The way that female rap artists utilize this to talk about their bodies and empower themselves in sexuality is powerful and beautiful. Did you know that when Fuck the Police was released, the FBI released a statement against the song? It was the only time in history, and since then, that the FBI has ever issued an official statement about a work of art. I mean, I feel like this is proof bad words have power. Bad words are meant to precipitate a larger reaction, and in some ways, bad words are the process of us slowly becoming who we want to become. Next, I would like to discuss Rico Nasty and her song Smack a Bitch. If you haven't heard this song yet, there is a link in the description to her Spotify. The song's lyrics and tone primarily express unapologetic anger. Let's look now at an interview that she talks about this with Talib Kweli.
People could describe you as black girl magic, which became a popular phrase on the internet, but I think you're more like black girl rage. And in an era where black women are so often tone policed or told to make their messages be respectable or nice, why do you feel like it's so important for black women to be seen across the whole gamut of emotions?
Well, I just feel like when you grow up and you see just so many of your aunts, or we have that one aunt who kind of represses a lot of her emotions, and she doesn't really, she just makes everything look good on the outside. She doesn't really talk about nothing. And when she does, everybody's like, oh, here we go again. Here we go with this shit, And what was crazy for me was growing up, people had so much shit to say about her. She always took care of her kids. Like, this shit ain't never mattered. She always took care of her kids. They ain't never want for nothing. And I always felt it was important to be the voice for women like her and so many others, because when you so busy taking care of everybody else, making sure everybody else is okay, who the fuck makes sure that you okay? Who the fuck checks in on you? Who the fuck makes songs for you? Like, I know we got our dear mamas and we love you women and all that great shit, but like, who makes the music that's like, literally, thank God I ain't had to smack a bitch today. Like you done had to be on the phone with this kid's teacher, make this meal, this kid talking back, all these moms and just women who on a daily, black women on a daily, who are like, so is that like your real hair? Or like, is that like, like that shit really make you just like, what? Like, you just get frustrated and you want to fucking scream, and you get in your car and there's so much music that's like, yeah, I'm a bad bitch, I'm pretty. I'm a bad bitch, I'm pretty. But like, who makes music like, I was gonna beat this bitch ass, but I didn't. Hold up. Like, we need that. You can't tell me we don't need that, bro. We need that, especially in a time, like you just said, so many people are telling us what to wear, what to say, how we should act, how many men we should date. And it's like, blah, blah. We are not in the 90s, and we are not in the 70s, bro. We can do whatever the guys do, and if you don't like it, then get off my page. You don't have to be here. Like, us doing what we want to do brings us power, and it is what it is. If y'all feel like that is too sexual or raunchy, I'm just tired of all these labels being put on us. Like, we're just women. We're not perfect women. Yes, I know we're mothers and all these stand-up titles, but we're still not fucking perfect. We still smoke weed and do bad shit occasionally. I mean, like, come on now. You can't act like your mom didn't eat McDonald's in the car and lie and say she didn't. Moms do bad shit too, like.
Right.
So, Rico Nasty uses her music to encourage centering and normalizing Black bodies and Black rage, and normalizing our different experiences and feelings, and to remind us that we have the power to shape the images that make us. That respectability politics and Black stereotypes are a form of suppression that we must overcome.